One of the most profound things I've learned in my life is that it's actually not about my hair at all. I've spent a lifetime trying to cover up who I am. And as much as I love a good external transformation, and I do, I much more love a heart transformation. Join me as I share how I work to heal my heart, find happiness, and embrace our hair. Hey guys, welcome back to It's Not About Your Hair, where we talk, if you've been here before, you know, all things hair, heart, and happiness. Hey, this is episode 4. I'm on a gal dang roll, and I'm glad you're here. If you've tuned in for all 4, thank you. This is just about a girl who has discovered her identity and wanting to share that with you guys, how we're going to shapeshift through our perspectives of ourselves, how we're going to break these lenses of how we used to see ourselves so that we can be transformed from the inside out. So again, Casey Voss here, curly hair specialist by day. If you want to know more about curly hair, you should check out my social media, Voss the Curl Boss, and we can talk curly hair there. That's about external transformation, and I'm super into that. But this podcast is about internal transformation and how we go about healing the way that we see ourselves. I meant to share this on some earlier parts of the podcast, but I said it before, but I have ADD. And so it's trying to create an actual blueprint for exactly how this podcast is going to go. What I think it's going to be is that we're going to discover that we're just going to roll from topic to topic, and we're going to go in and out of some ideas. Hopefully they're cohesive. Hopefully they help you. The goal of this is that I spent so much of my life, you guys, feeling like I was the only one. Feeling like, again, the imposter syndrome, that I was faking every part of who I was. I was pretending. Kept thinking that if I just got to this next level, I would finally have arrived. That if my salon was just busy enough, if I just had enough money, if I just drove the right car, if my kids were just, if my hair was just, if my husband was just, and that just, we talked about in our last episode, was expectations of my life to look like something. It was only in really, truly deciding that my life, 2 things. My life has a purpose and I have a purpose in my life, okay? Those 2 things then freed me up to say every day, what is that? What is my purpose? What am I doing? And quit looking for everyone else to tell me what my purpose was, because I spent so much of my life feeling like I could not be good enough. There was nothing about me that was worthy of love. And I had created a pretty toxic environment. I'm going to be honest. I talked about this early on, but I wrote this book. We're going to go through chapters of this book together in my life. And hopefully you guys will share things with me that you want to hear and know. But what I was going to say today is that a lot of my life I struggled with anxiety and depression. And I didn't realize that anxiety and depression, and this is not for everybody. This is, my goodness, not a blanket statement. There are absolutely times that anxiety and depression are something that you just need help to overcome. And I have been in therapy on and off for, I think, 14 or 15 years now. There's 0 things wrong with that. When I was in high school, we'll get back to that. But so I'm not giving blanket statements that once you understand this, you're going to be fine. But I want to share my story. So most of my life, I battled with anxiety and depression. And what I have realized through books, therapy, Jesus, life, friendship, long enough on the planet, is that most of my anxiety is caused when I am too far out in the future. So anxiety for me comes when I'm worried about what's going to happen next. And depression is when I'm stuck in how come, or what happened back there, or how come that didn't work out, or what are people going to think about me. And I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but I know that that's 1,000% true for me. So when I'm too worried about the future, I'm a mess. I can remember a time going to the ER in my maybe early 30s, and I'm 43 now, where I couldn't swallow. I couldn't swallow. You guys, I didn't think I had anxiety. I didn't feel anxious. I just couldn't swallow. After a bunch of testing, they discovered, that I was anxious. I was having an anxiety attack. And I think that I was stuffing so many of my feelings. I'm okay. I'm really good. Look good, feel good, everything's fine here, nothing to see here. And I wasn't even allowing it to get up. I couldn't even accept it myself. And recognizing that anxiety was keeping me stuck in the dance, the charade, the false self. I was fine. I'm just fine. Everybody's fine here. Nothing to look at. And then depression coming because I was stuffing so much of my past and not able to deal with it. And so I would replay it because I hadn't talked about it or shared it. So I isolated because I was depressed. I isolated, and in my isolation, I overthought. What did I overthought? Two things. I either tried to numb out through watching other people's business on the internet, or watching TV, or working. Working was a big one for me to numb out. Or I just replayed things that happened to me or that I did to other people until I was a mess. And I think it's so important that we realize that everybody feels that way. Everybody has stuff in their past that they're embarrassed about. Everybody has someone back there that's hurt their freaking feelings. And some of us more than others. But it does not devalue that you have been hurt, that something happened to you, but only through dealing with it and choosing to take off the lens. So I'm going to give you guys a really good example. So I got my glasses back on, and apparently we're going to do this in every episode until I get tired of it. When I was 13, my parents got divorced. My dad left abruptly on Christmas Eve, and my world shattered. My dad was very much the head of our household. Navy, very strict, had a way of doing things. Left on Christmas Eve, and I only saw him a few times after that. And then we had to move out of military housing, move to a new city without a home, not knowing where we were going. I didn't see my dad again for a couple of years, didn't even talk to him. And that was abnormal because I had what I thought was a normal childhood before then. And then my world changed at 13. So guess what? I picked up a pair of lenses. Another one, because before that, remember we already talked about I had the lens of my hair's a mess, I'm messy, and I'm stupid. And now I picked up a new set of lenses that said, look at, you're so messy and you're so stupid that even your own dad doesn't want to be around because you're messy and stupid. So now I got a new set of lenses. I hope you guys are catching this. So if you haven't listened to the other episodes, you should go back because we're just going to keep building. But you can still catch what I'm laying down. You have things in your past from very early on that change the way that you see the world around you and you see yourself. So when I put on those lenses, so now I'm 13, I am messy. I hate my hair. I hate my freckles. I hate how dumb I am. And now my dad's left. And it was a very hard time. But in that time, and this was before cell phones, so there was no texting. It was just like long distance if you wanted to talk to somebody. I had a lot of time to think about why my own parent wouldn't want me. And this is nothing bad about my dad, you guys, because I have a relationship with him now that is good and awesome. But that came through a lot of healing and a lot of forgiveness for myself and for him. But I think it's important that we recognize these things. So what happened to you when you were a kid, things in your control and out of your control, shape the way that we show up. And then they continue to shape the way we show up. And I would say that at 13, I think I made the final decision that I was so ugly and so stupid and so unworthy of love that I just began to throw myself deeply into behaviors that would continue to accelerate that viewpoint of myself. And I think created a ton of depression and anxiety because I had no idea who I was. And so every room I walked in, and if you know me from my youth, especially middle school and high school, I think I was a chameleon. I was always trying to be what someone would want because I didn't know what people would want. I was always trying to figure out. And so it was like a new set of lies at every turn. Like, how could I be more of this? And then how do I keep up what I said I was there to do this, to do that? And just continuing to shapeshift to try and figure out what people wanted. But I never asked myself who I was because I had already made the decision early back in my past that who I was so dang dumb and ugly and not important that even my own parent wouldn't want me. So I didn't want to show up as me because I didn't know who me was. Does this stuff make sense, you guys? When I started to realize this, it was only in these pockets of realization of reality that I could bump into these lenses and go, what if it wasn't true? And I think it takes adulthood, you guys. And so I want to go back to, if your parents have been divorced, I mean, how many of us share that story? And whatever went on with your parents when they got divorced. And I hear lots of adult people still blaming their parents. And that's okay. I'm not here to tell you you can't. I'm just telling you that there could be another way. A lot of adult people, saying if my parents wouldn't have, or if that didn't happen to me, but it did. And so what we can't do is we can't continue to blame, but it only further prevents our healing. I was able to go back and instead of repeating the story that it was my fault, find some compassion for my parents as they were going through what must have been a really hard time to make the decisions that they made. And when I was able to soften my thoughts towards them, I was able to ask myself, have I as a parent also struggled with some of these thoughts? And thankful that I haven't made the same decisions to be divorced or to have to leave my family. And when I'm able to find a soft space instead of an expectation of parents look like this, and soften the landing pad to parents look like normal people who make a lot of mistakes, because I too, as a parent, have made an extensive amount of mistakes, it begins to drop the anxiety in the room to what if we're all just trying to get by? And when we get to that spot of what if we're all just trying to get by, then I can allow space for some healing. I sure hope that this is making sense to you guys. So we're at 13. At 13, these are the ideas. And the reason, again, I say it's not about your hair is because my earliest memories about me not being good enough revolved around my hair being a mess and how I saw myself as well as how others saw my hair. And that begins to make the first set of our viewpoint of ourselves. And so into adulthood, I have lots of experiences where I can remember thinking and how this shows up. So this becomes the root, you guys, of anxiety and depression is the unhealed stuff from our past. So those are just 3 of my things that are the foundation of how I saw myself. So I had major trust and abandonment issues that, god dang, there's still, I think somewhere deep down inside of me, there's still a little bit of that root of not being good enough that trickles up in me. And I freaking hate it. I'm aware of it. So I can bump into the lenses, the glasses of that. I know that that's my root. My root fear is not being worthy of love. That me as me is not enough. Took me 100 goddamn years to discover that. But once I discovered that, when I start feeling that, the need to pretend I'm something I'm not, the need to search for love by validating it with external things instead of trusting that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, that I have a purpose, that I am created for a purpose, that my life matters, and I start looking for the validation of others, that is when I start putting expectations on people. That's when my whole ship starts crashing. That's when I start going underwater, you guys. That's when the anxiety and depression get high. But when I can bump into the uncomfortableness of the root, so how did it show up in my adult life? Oh my God, I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years. Every time someone quit or moved or couldn't work with me anymore for some reason, whether good or bad, you would have thought that they were leaving me high and dry and I couldn't live because I had this. It was just like, hey, I'm moving out of town, so I'm not going to be able to work here anymore. I took that as painfully as the day my parents split up, because I had a root of why are they leaving? They probably wouldn't be moving if I had done things better. I should do things better. I'm going to try harder on the next time. Again, just adding another lens to look. People don't stay. And literally, it was just they were moving. And sometimes people left because they didn't want to work for me, right? So maybe that was it too. But I couldn't see all the people that did want to work for me. Or if I got into an argument with my husband, instead of it just being like a literal silly argument, I turned it into, I knew it. I knew you wanted to get divorced. I knew that no one wants to be with me because I hadn't handled the root issue of me feeling like I hadn't healed the past version of myself that had all this unworthiness issues, you guys. So today, that's our lesson is what's one thing, one memory from your past that you could go back to, pick up, and discover about yourself that might be something that you're holding on to, a lie about yourself. Maybe something happened with your parents and it can be that simple, hard, but simple. And you're still blaming them for something you need to forgive them for. Because you guys, we can't forgive others, or we can't forgive ourselves if we're not willing to forgive others. And we can't move forward in this journey with a bunch of baggage of bitterness. We really can't. Because I'm all about, your hair, your heart, and god dang it, your god darn happiness. And happiness comes from us being willing. I hope this isn't affecting this as I come in and out, you guys. If you're just here for the audio, I'm coming in and out. But anyways, I want to get to the point of internal transformation. And internal transformation comes from recognizing what's causing our anxiety and depression, what's causing our bitterness, what's causing our unforgiveness, and bumping into it long enough that we can say, you know what, these flipping glasses, these lenses aren't working for me and I want something more. And we don't get the something more. Catch what I'm laying down here because I'm about to sign off. We don't get the something more by expecting someone to give it to us. It comes through our internal transformation and it comes out of us. And so glad you were here today. I hope this helped you. I hope that if you're not fine, you know you're going to be fine, that you're worthy of love and you look great and your hair is awesome. I guess this is where I ask you to subscribe to my channel, to follow me on social, and to listen wherever podcasts can be found. And join me every Tuesday at 2 as we unpack how to heal your hair, your heart, and your happiness.